So today's video is actually one that I literally was like sitting in my room and I was going through my closet and I was like, you know what? I just realized I have so much stuff that I have thrifted like within this last year. And I wanted to share that with you because I realized in this year a really, really important thing. And it's going to continue to be part of my journey of self-discovery, and that is that I no longer want to like buy clothes. It's like kind of weird, but basically I just want to start thrifting more. And this is actually, I'm not gonna lie, this is actually a really big thing for me to say because I come from a family that is a huge shopping family, specifically like my mom, my aunt. For a little backstory, growing up, I spent every weekend in a mall, shopping at malls every weekend. It was like a part of my life that I like, it's kind of shocking now because whenever I go to a mall now, I'm actually a little bit like, not overwhelmed, but I do feel like tired after a bit. And it's crazy because I grew up, like I was saying, literally went to the mall every weekend. It was a pastime. It was a thing that we did. And I have so many memories of literally like waking up early mornings. My aunt lived in the Bronx and my mom and I would go every like weekend. We spent every weekend, we lived in Queens and we grew up every weekend going to the Bronx basically. We would go to the mall and spend hours there, like hours at the mall. Like we would get there opening 10 a.m. and we wouldn't leave till like 8. We spent the whole day there. We would have lunch, sometimes even dinner there. So I have a lot of memories of just going to the mall. And I always find it kind of funny when other people are like, what? You went to the mall every week? And I'm like, yeah. And did we shop? Absolutely. My mom is still a huge shopper. They still shop a lot. But ever since I moved to Canada, I don't know, and I've gotten older, like the idea of shopping has changed a lot for me. So here are 3 reasons why I think you should probably start thrifting too. So the first thing I noticed is that number 1, it's so much more affordable to go thrift shopping than it is to actually go to a store and go shopping. Because you can go to some places and you're like, why is this shirt like $80? And then you go to a thrift store and you can find that same exact thing for $20 or $40 maybe maximum if it's a really good brand. But like, it's astonishing the things that you can find in a thrift store. I have so much clothes that I just realized because I've been going through my closet and I realized, oh my God, I've collected so many things that I've like thrifted that I haven't actually shopped in a store in the mall in a hot minute, I will say. It'll save you some money. That's the number 1 thing. And you can find some really good thing if you go to some really good thrift shops. You can find some really good like quality stuff there for a much cheaper price. And it's not just clothes. Like I find other things like for my home in a thrift shop that I'm like, oh, well, this was a really well working, like that's Instant Pot. It works perfectly well and it costs a lot less than if I went to Walmart or to any store and bought it straight there. So, I mean, not always will you be lucky like that, but I've been pretty lucky where I like usually find things that I'm like, oh, well, this all worked perfectly fine for me. Perfection. Yes. Number 2, I really have realized that also going thrifting makes your shopping a lot more intentional. So when you're going shopping, you're kind of like, okay, you just go to the mall and then you end up buying things that you don't necessarily need. But if you go to a thrift store, you're kind of going already with an intention of what you want, because what I've been trying to do, and it's still work in progress, still working on it, is going to a thrift store and being like, okay, I am looking specifically for a tan sweater that is open, that will be good for work, but also good for chill. Like I know what I'm looking for. And that is something that I am working on still, because I do still have like a shopping, not addiction, I'm not addicted to shopping, but I am somebody who like sometimes can get into a thrift store and I'm like, oh my God, there's so many options. And then you start going, because you can be there the whole day thrifting. Like you could be there for a very long time. So you're just like turning. And then, or going through the clothes and you find things that you weren't necessarily wanting, but you're like, well, it's a good price, might as well buy it. And then next thing you know, you kind of bought like a whole bunch of stuff you probably don't really need. So it's definitely happened because I bought like 3 sweaters that I'm like, do I really need this? No, not really. I don't really need 3 kinds of the sweater kind of thing, you know? And the 3rd reason, and this is actually the most important one, and it's something that I really learned over like the last year or so, and that is that thrifting is actually good for the environment because you are not participating in the thing called fast fashion, which I'm gonna touch briefly upon. But fast fashion is basically these brands that sell a whole bunch of clothes really, really quickly. They're like trying to produce clothes really, really quickly with really bad materials. And then also the people who are making these clothes are under bad living conditions or living wage conditions, or where they work in factories is really bad. Like they work in places where like they're just dyeing clothes that's just not good for their health. So it's just bad. Fast fashion is a bad thing. And I actually made a video right over here where I talk about all things fast fashion and why I decided to quit. But basically that to me is my number one reason why, like, even though I put it number 3, it's technically the most important. Save the best for last. That's what I did. Save the best for last. And that is the fact that it's just good for the environment. You're, one, reusing clothes instead of buying a lot of clothes and then getting rid of them because, number one, you can't really thrift them because they're like in bad condition. So you don't want to necessarily give it to a thrift store because no one's going to buy it if it's in bad condition. So number one, it's just good for the environment. You're just buying clothes, and then when you are done loving them, you can put them back to the thrift store. But usually, like, for the environment, I feel like that's really, really important, is for us to stop buying so much crap. So much clothes, and clothes that's just not good clothes. You know, polyester, nylon, I think it's nylon, like just some like really, really bad stuff out there. So sometimes when you go thrifting, I'm not saying that when you go thrifting, you're not gonna, like, everything there is gonna be like the best materials. Cause trust me, you'll find a lot of stuff in the thrift store that is fast fashion stuff. You'll find a whole bunch of stuff from Zara, from H&M, and I'm not gonna lie and say that I've never like bought something from there, but I have to be kind of in a pinch. I'm really like leaning towards buying brands or buying clothes that whenever I read the tag, it's really telling me like these are made of these types of materials, and if it passes my list of like, yeah, that's good for the environment, good for me, looks good, then I'll buy it. So those are my 3 reasons why I've started thrifting. If you're somebody who's just like buying so much clothes and then you're looking at your freaking closet and you're like, why do I have so much crap? It's probably because you're just indulging in the whole thing called fast fashion, where there's just so many trends and you're like, oh, I want this, and then next thing you know, it sits there and then you never wear it again. So I don't know, if you've never tried thrifting, maybe you should give it a try. It could be a good time. But anyway, that is today's video. If you enjoyed this, please give me a like. Also, if you're interested, I'm not going to force you to do it. Do whatever you like. You can subscribe, and I will be here again next week with another video. Okay, bye!